okay, you just say hello. Welcome to Life's a Pitch.
No, I'm just really excited about this one. I really am.
Yeah, I know.
Firstly,
So am I.
Before we get started, let me just say that we took a break last week. We
I
didn't mean to.
I thought we were going to mention that.
Well, we have to. They were. Of course, they were expecting an episode, weren't they? So sorry. About. Well, there was no episode last week because, well, due to different circumstances that are private, but
unforeseen circumstances.
So, welcome back. We're back.
We are
again. Not going to play the Eminem song.
Or are we? No.
Wait, no. Okay. So,
no.
So we're back. Life's a Pitch, episode 8, and episode 8.
Oh my god! I feel like I say this every single episode, but oh my god,
We've done eight episodes. So, Thinking Juice, Creative Forager. What do those words mean? I don't know, but you should.
Gold.
So we were extremely lucky and we were extremely honored to be joined by Mr. Luke Bonner and Mr. Mark Sephton, who are incredible creatives in this wonderful industry in Bournemouth. And yeah, we had probably one of the best chats we've had on this podcast so far.
Don't build it up too much.
No, I'm going to build it up. I said at the beginning, I was really excited about this episode. And I really want to get across that everyone who listens to this should tell other people to listen to this because you should listen to this.
Tell your friends. Tell your mum.
Tell everyone.
Tell your nan. Tell your dad. Tell your
nan's nan.
Tell your neighbour's dog. Tell them all. Tell them to listen.
Yeah. So
tell your neighbour's dog. Yeah, what?
Really excited about this episode. What did you think? Do you think I remember the look on our faces after we finished recording and we were just so excited to put this out.
It was. I remember being sat there, and it was just. I mean, this is the first time we've ever had more than one person on the podcast.
Yeah.
And
well, no, it's the second time, but it's the first time we've had two creatives on the podcast.
Yeah. I'm sorry, of course, yeah. And I think, going back to the episode we did with Rocky and Louis as well, I had the same feeling of apprehension beforehand.
Yeah.
Thinking, how is this going to work? Is it going to work? Are they going to bounce off each other? Is it going to be shit? Is it going to be as good as I think it's going to be? There was all these sort of thoughts running through my head, and I worried for nothing. I'm going to say nothing more than that, and I'm going to let you guys decide for yourselves how good do you think this episode is.
It is really good.
if you can't tell by now how excited we are by this, and how many times Virat just said he's excited. I even let him start today.
Yeah, I know that never happens. But yeah, so
he was like, "Can I ask you a favor?" Like, yeah, go on. And he was like, "Can I start this one?" And I heard the excitement in his voice. And I was like, "You know what?
I am very excited.
Time to let him start this one."
Anyway, so we hope you guys enjoyed. We really did.
Yeah.
And enjoy.
Hi, welcome back to Life's a Pitch podcast. I'm Mark Sephton.
I'm Luke Bonner.
This is just weird, isn't it? It doesn't work.
Yeah, that's our guest today. They've introduced themselves already.
Should we pack up?
Let's go. Right, no, we are back after an unforced break of a week.
Yeah.
We didn't mean to. We're joined by Luke and Mark today, who are two, I don't want to say creative heavyweights, because last time I said that to George, he thought I was talking about his weight.
Talking about his actual weight.
which I wasn't. But yeah, two guys we're really excited to have on, and we're, again, really excited to chat to and get to understand a little bit more about them. So I'm going to stop talking and I'll let them introduce themselves. So, Luke, purely based on alphabetical surnames.
Yeah.
No egos here.
Yeah. My name's Luke Bonner. I'm head of art at an agency called Thinking Juice. We're about 65 people strong. The official garbage that we use is we're thinkers, innovators, planners, creatives, strategists, kind of a collection of people that ultimately try to build relevant connections with brands and their customers. And I'm kind of responsible for our creative output alongside our creative director, head of copy, and head of design.
How about yourself, Mark?
Cool. Yeah. Hi. Yes, I'm Mark Sephton. I'm a creative. Spent a fair bit of time up in London at various agencies up there, such as VCCP, working on various brands like Red Bull. Moved down here 10 years ago. I was creative director of an agency called RLA, who is still going strong out near the airport in Bournemouth. And I left there 5 years ago, went freelance. So I've become a sort of freelance creative for various agencies and brands alike all over the shop. But now I'm focusing more on Creative Forager, which is an agency, if you like. I mean, it's ultimately me with a small team, but then I pull in people as and when required. But we make videos, stunts, mainly. That's what we do. But yeah, I guess our little tagline is "Buzz from unconventional ideas." So that's what we're.
Oh, I like that.
That's what we're
That's a
about.
good one.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because you said you were originally in London, but you
Yeah.
moved down here. What was your motivations for coming down here? What was your
Okay. Well, so I mean, the honest answer is family reasons. My son was heading towards secondary school, so secondary school age. So we didn't love the options up in London. So it's like time to kind of gravitate back here. I grew up down Wimborne way, so I'm from here. So I think when you're in London, you get to a stage where you're looking to move out. You wonder which direction. So having roots down here.
Just go back home?
I came back. Yeah, not exactly back home. I ended up in the New Forest. So because I kept my job up there.
Not a bad place to.
It's
go
all
back
right.
to.
Yeah, it's a few
Beautiful place.
rogue animals sort of flying around the place
Oh my
every
God.
now and
Yeah,
again.
we're not gonna. Yeah.
But yeah,
And the wild ones.
but there's good. There's good train the wild ones. Yeah, there's good train links. So I actually kept my job in London. I went up and down every day from Brockenhurst for the first year, which was pretty stupid.
That's an interesting point. I almost got chased. Sorry to interrupt there, but I almost got chased by a horse at the weekend. We went to visit.
Oh
my
yeah,
family.
that was pretty funny. He got out to take a picture of a horse with his
You gotta
with
get
his
the
new
shots, don't you?
DSLR, and
Yeah.
we tried to drive away, but then realized the horse was chasing him.
I was
Tried to stop.
just as I was about to get the right shot, I heard like Louis' voice go in a panic, going,
Yeah.
"The bill!" And I turned around, and there was a horse like briskly walking
They're
towards me.
everywhere. They release pigs in October to eat the acorns because the horses aren't meant to eat acorns. It's like crazy out there, wild, like a wild place. But yeah, I was sort of So I sort of left. The last agency I was up there was called Castor and Partners. I sort of left there because that commute was just too much. But I was kind of heartened by actually there were some good agencies down here back then, and that was 10 years ago. And obviously a lot's changed since that. But it was really heartening to see there was people down here that wanted to not only have a good lifestyle, but they wanted to have also wanted to produce good work. So that was good news for me moving down here.
Look, what you've obviously been in Bournemouth for a while now, and is there anything in particular you see in the growing community in Bournemouth that excites you in a way?
Actually, this question is open to both of you. What
Yeah,
excites
of
you
course,
in the
yeah.
creative community down here?
I think, unlike, we're kind of touching on what Mark was saying actually, is that there is a if you are genuinely serious about having a career in advertising and creative, I think the most exciting thing is that now you can do it in Bournemouth. I think touching on maybe when Mark came back, it was maybe a bit more of a risk even at that point to actually, I still want to have a really progressive career and achieve all the things that you want to achieve. But actually, we've all got lives, and maybe the London mindset, not necessarily across the board, but the intensity maybe of working inside London doesn't suit everyone. You know, people have family, people have friends that they actually want to see, people enjoy surfing, people, you know, life isn't just about work. And I think what the most exciting thing about what Bournemouth can offer you now is a genuine work-life balance in regards to the things that you can do at the weekend. You know, no horrible commute. I think the most exciting thing is if I was going back 10 years and graduating, is actually that it's become a really valid option to stay down here and pursue a career, not a job.
Right.
And you just have to look at the sort of, you know, the clients that people are working with down here. You know, from my experience alone, we work with world famous brands. It's not like we're all down in Bournemouth and competing for the local chocolate company. That doesn't exist. We're all competing on a national, international scale, working with all sorts of worldwide famous brands. So I think that would be the most exciting bit for me. Is that as a graduate, you've genuinely got an option to have a career here.
Yeah.
And and talk about all those things that people never really bring up. You can earn good money down here if you're good, especially proportionate to your living costs that would be in London. So I just think it's a viable option where before it never really was.
Right.
And that's to do with the influx of the amount of digital startups, for example, but also touching on when Mark came down 10 years ago, there were a lot of agencies that were in their infancy now, who are kind of really thriving and relishing their off the back of the experiences they've got over the last 10 years. So it's just an interesting setup, I think, at the minute. I guess my priorities probably changed slightly. They probably went from going out every weekend and just doing fun things with my mates to actually I want to have a family down the road and that sort of thing. So my mindset might have changed. And then that's when I really started seeing the value of being down here. And I think that completely refocused my energies to not be trying to, I guess I was just more focused rather than thinking about where am I going to go in London, what agency am I going to go to, what am I doing. I actually refocused my energies on the work that I was doing.
Right.
And I think the agency, hopefully, and obviously myself personally, really benefited from having that kind of single-minded view of actually, I'm in Bournemouth, I really want to make it work. And the other, going back to your original question, the two most exciting things I think about this area are BU and AUB. I think that Mark and I were just talking about before we came in here. I reckon 60-65% of our workforce has studied at either BU or AUB, so it's vital. And to see like the new building that you've got here, I was doing a lecture the other day there, and some of the new buildings over the road at AUB. It's an exciting place, I think the difference is these universities, because of the industry, they're kind of working hand in hand, that better students or students that are taking this industry more seriously are looking at Bournemouth as a valid option, because there's actually quite an exciting kind of scene down there to get involved with.
Amazing. So we want the links between industry and education down.
Yeah. And what about you, Mark?
I sort of couldn't agree more. I mean, I think, as Luke was sort of saying, the universities knock out some great talent, and I guess we're both fortunate. I do some tutoring at AUB. Luke does tutoring there and here, and it's just you just feel such a buzz. Actually, it's a really thriving, stimulating environment to be amongst students at the cutting edge of learning and sort of creating of ideas. I guess the cutting edge of ideas is just a really exciting place to be, and it's just. I feel like I get as much out of my days here as perhaps the students do. Maybe more. I don't know. Ask the students, find out. Really, really good.
And as both of you are creatives, where do you tend to draw most of your inspiration from? Is it more inspiration from agencies and things that happen around you, or is it taken from things in your past and in the work that you put out?
Yeah, I suppose it's I think taking inspiration from work and agencies around you is probably a dangerous thing. I think that can lead to sort of dead ends and sort of plagiarism and familiarity issues, which ultimately we're obviously looking for the opposite to that. I guess we're looking to create fresh ideas is what we're trying to do. The inspiration, I guess where it comes from, I guess it's just exposing yourself to as many different things as you can, whether it's books, galleries, films, and I guess the internet was obviously an amazing sort of source of things there. I guess you can get, it's maybe just finding other channels within that, to open up other doors. I think you can sometimes perhaps get stuck into ruts of perhaps looking on YouTube or whatever for ideas. That's what everyone's doing. So you kind of need to look somewhere else, I think. But just being open-minded, staying curious. Just keep your eyes open. Never just being open to sort of new ideas and looking and experiencing new things. It's a bit sort of vague, but it really is. I think it is that sort of simple in a way. Isn't it?
I think it is. I think everyone has their own kind of working methods. I'm exactly like Mark saying. I don't draw inspiration from anywhere. I just try to keep my eyes open, my ears open, and take in and consume as much as I can. Little habits, I think, that I've just picked up over the years. Not necessarily where I draw my inspiration from in regards to the creative ideas I come up with, but to be able to be in a room and have relevant conversation. I read BBC News, the top 10 articles on BBC News every day,
Right.
just so you know what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
It's quite important. I think creatively, where ideas come from, and especially, you know, I'm from an art direction background, so I'm talking about look and feel.
Mhm.
I think that is just looking wherever you are. I kind of, if you like, for example, if you're looking at a 48 sheet or a 6 sheet or a press ad,
Mhm.
go and look at other press ads and 48 sheets and 6 sheets. It's the only way you'll learn actually what's right, what's not right about that. I hate that. Well, I always actually find I really enjoy bad daytime TV adverts
Right.
as a source of inspiration, because I think it's if you can see what people are actually putting out there genuinely, and clients are probably paying big money for this. And actually, I kept looking at these, and I was like, how the hell are these TV ads ending up on there? And ultimately, they're there to disrupt. So
Right.
For that channel, actually, you kind of channel it changes the way you're thinking, and I think that's something that all the guys that I work with, especially the graduates, tend to learn in the first couple of years of working, is that you go from wanting to write a Cadbury's Gorilla ad for every single ad to suddenly going, actually, well, what's going to make this work? What's going to be effective for the consumer? And that, going back to the inspiration point, I think actually I take inspiration about how people communicate messaging the most. In regards to that might look horrible and sound horrible, but actually it works.
Yeah.
So my inspiration is actually, you know, and that's in the advertising world. Outside of that, you look at you see your goodwill stories, or someone that's just randomly giving out 20 quid notes, and actually it's those real life. Well, that person there is one person who's had an idea and has caused this massive reaction.
Yeah.
So surely a brand that's got £1 million media spend this year should be able to cause equal traction. And it's kind of taking inspiration from kind of the little guys out there that have just got big ideas and are implementing them themselves, and then seeing how they can be relevant for a commercial world without stumbling into that point of, that guy had that idea, so I'm just going to stick a logo on it.
Yeah.
It's reinterpreting actually the thinking behind what they're doing in maybe a relevant way for that brand.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I think it kind of comes from, I guess, the luck of how brave your clients are. I think that's a big factor in whenever I've managed to do work that is out there pushing boundaries. You need to have quite a gung-ho client that's prepared to take risks, because I think some clients look at work and strategies that are out there and kind of, as you're sort of saying, Luke, want to match that and sort of do their version of X, or a strategy that's like this but shaped like that, and it's kind of, that's never really going to disrupt or cut through because people have seen it. There's no surprise there. So yeah, I don't quite know how you sort of pick and get brave clients, but that's one of the kind of combinations I think for getting
sorry
good.
to interrupt, but when you do have an idea like that's way out there, and you have a client that's a bit on the edge, how do you get them to agree with what you're... Because at the end of the day, they're putting their trust in you to put something out.
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, sometimes you can never sort of, because it's not, you haven't seen something before. It makes you a bit uncomfortable with it because you haven't got the results, the proof, the familiarity of how a certain type of thing might work. So yeah, I guess you have to be honest, really, and sort of say, look, I don't know how it's going to go, but because you've got some past experience of similar kinds of things that, because they're fresh and different, they just get traction, they get coverage, they get people want to share them. So
I think there's that element of, you have to believe in the idea yourself.
Yeah.
And that you know when you're pitching an idea that you believe in, and you know when someone's pitching an idea that they have thought because they knew they had to come up with an idea. It's the most evident thing in the people's body language and the way that they talk about it.
Right. Yeah.
Like genuine enthusiasm for it. I think it's always, you can't fake it.
Yeah.
You can't fake that enthusiasm for an average idea.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when you land on one of those kind of bigger ideas, I think the other bit on that is how do you sell an idea like that in?
Yeah.
Is actually not thinking about a client. I think one of the things that struck me when I first went into work, effectively, you assume that a client is one person that makes a decision. Actually, in most organisations, it's a string of maybe 10 different people, depending on the scale of the organisation. But if you're working for a multinational brand, the UK marketing manager will get it signed off by the UK marketing director, who will send it to Europe, who then will get it signed off by global, and then ultimately it will be the MD that has the final say.
Right.
So this idea, quite often that idea that you're trying to convince someone to do isn't always as simple as being in a room with someone and saying, come on. So I think it puts a real focus on how articulate you can be about explaining why this creative idea is a good idea in not only a physical presentation, but also your documentation for that idea, and making sure that you are saying everything it needs to say in the deck or the proposal that it's going over with, because it will get shifted through so many different hands and have so many different opinions on it.
Yeah.
Then the job of the creative, I think, becomes protecting that idea. So quite often what happens in industry is that a client, you might pitch 3 ideas and they might like the idea of smashing all those 3 ideas together. And then suddenly you're like, no, but
delivering the message. Yeah.
So actually, the job of the creative, I think, in that instance, becomes kind of like a guardian of the idea, and being strong enough and brave enough to put your neck out there and say, guys, it's not going to work if you do it like that.
Right.
The thing that you have to balance that with, it's easy for probably Mark and I to say it because we're on the creative side of the business. Obviously, the account managers then have to manage the relationship.
Yeah.
So it's all a massive juggling act, I think. But
I think in the old days of being in big agencies, there's like this real kind of creatives v suits, sort of not rivalry, but a bit of a sort of basically they just kind of end up not selling your idea properly and doing the job. But I think as you get older and work in more places, you do really appreciate that relationship management job and that skill of having emotional intelligence to judge what's right and what's wrong, and not just trying to second guess a client, but literally, it's subjective. It's a subjective game, isn't it? So what one person thinks is great and right, another person might think is terrible. Yeah. So that skill of actually sort of gauging why an idea is right for a brand, and probably the skill of then selling that in, the rationale for that is, it's a real art. And I think a lot of that comes from what Luke and I do, and I think you always sort of string together a bit of an argument as to why you've done an idea. You always know why something's come about, and what should sort of sell it in. And it's interesting actually what you're sort of saying about selling ideas into big companies where you can't presume, you can't leave any stone unturned. You can't presume that meeting's going to get translated down the line. Sort of add, word for word. You have to sort of really cover yourself and annotate things more than you think you should.
Big time. And on that point, I think
protect yourself.
People, for example, we all see the colour blue slightly differently. It's the same way with an idea, especially if you're the person that's had the idea. So you have quite a clear vision of ultimately what it's going to look like, what it's going to feel like, how people are going to interact with it. But from a client, it's so important that you sell it in a way so you really articulate what you want it to be. Yeah. Because if they think it's something else, and then you suddenly get around to production, and as soon as you're in production of any idea, money, becomes heavily involved, and they're thinking something slightly different to what you're thinking, is generally where projects become difficult because of managed expectations ultimately. But actually, I thought it was going to be like that, or that's not performed as well as that. Well, I'm going, it was never meant to do that. Yeah. The whole point, it was about awareness, not traffic to your website. And then, so all of those, like the reason why you're doing something is so important when it comes to trying to sell in a big idea. Yeah. I don't think you can do it without it, really. Yeah. And ultimately, that why could be quite fun and flippant. It could just be to stand out, to make people look at your brand. Yeah. To engage with a consumer, to disrupt a consumer's day. It could, like the why can be quite lofty and fun. It doesn't have to be explain why this idea is going to work. Yeah. It can be quite fun, but it's essential because you need to know at the beginning why you're doing what you're doing.
Just coming back to at the start of that question, you said it was quite hard to find clients who are willing enough to be brave. Yeah. Do you think that sort of, being brave and that sort of aspect of taking a risk is getting easier in your day-to-day relations with a client, or do you reckon
Yeah.
Do you think it's?
I guess in one way, yes, because as you do more work that sort of works, I think it becomes easier because they trust you, and I guess that's another part of the process is getting the trust of the person you're working for, them appreciating your eye, your ideas, your mind, your approach. So that's important. Getting easier in other ways, in that I guess from a personal point of view, the sort of work that I quite like doing is kind of often installations and stunts and that kind of thing, like ambient ads.
Right.
And some time ago, like I don't know, 5-8 years ago, I mean, I've always done those kind of ideas, but they were often just like the nice to have ideas. Sort of, you do the campaign, you do a TV ad, posters, some digital, and then it'd be like you'd stick one of those in for fun. And it was like, oh, the client would love it, but it would never happen. Whereas it's almost like it's changed a lot now. So these ideas that perhaps were more dangerous and daring some time ago, now I think it's an easier thing to do. I think because it's sort of there's no media cost for it. There's no media cost for doing a stunt. There's a bit of permission maybe, but you capture it well, and if it's timed right and it connects with people well, then it's it gets the proof of why it's successful because it gets the sharing, it maybe gets some publicity, maybe gets some PR, and that kind of justifies it. So
what's your favorite installation or stunt that you've seen that you haven't done?
I think I know. I think I know what he's about to say, but go on.
I haven't done.
That you haven't done.
You have done.
No, that I haven't done was the question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good one.
Oh, you haven't? Okay, no.
Yeah.
I'm on a different page.
I don't even know what
It's probably a lot easier
it's
to pick from stuff he's done.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of things that are on beaches, so I'm not specifically always on beaches, but there's something else I saw that wasn't by me. It was on a beach, but it was actually like a melted ice cream truck in Sydney, I think.
Right.
I don't know what it's for, so that's probably not the
Yeah.
best answer. It looks amazing. It looks amazing. I guess some of these things, they sometimes border on like public art, really. That's maybe why they're quite nice. It's just brands not having to sort of ram their message down your throat. It's a bit gentler. Public like engaging with it, getting a bit of content for the day that sort of they like to share. And I think it's good. So yeah, there's a melted ice cream truck is the image that sprung to mind. Yeah,
That's a good one, I think.
That is quite a good one. I'm going to find that.
I think the other point, what you were saying earlier about is it becoming easier to selling those ideas? It is, because in the people like marketing managers across the country and the world have big content budgets.
Yeah.
Before content, maybe a couple of years ago, social. Those budgets are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and there are a lot of companies which have a content first approach to all of their communication strategy. And content relies on ideas, big ideas. Right. So it's probably just a bit of a financial bit that actually people have got. I think because it's so common, in the sense of people have seen all of these really cool references like the T-Mobile stuff a few years ago. But everyone is aware of the impact that it can create. And I think there's still a bit of naivety in the industry in general that it's any easier. I think there's a common misperception that kind of a social approach or a content approach is easier and cheaper than a traditional kind of media spend, and traditional I'm including digital in that as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's kind of disappearing, which is good. And I think now you get the same level of respect for a content idea as you would a 48 sheet campaign or an outdoor campaign, and that the levels of respect kind of both agency side and client side is, I don't know whether you found that, Mark.
Yeah, totally.
It's being taken more seriously, isn't it?
I think you bang on. And again, not the pressure's off, but the budgets aren't as big to make. I mean, to make a massive blockbuster TV ad, massive budget plus massive media spend is a lot of pressure on a marketing director and an agency to create. Whereas these little bits of content that happen are, there's sort of a fraction of the budget. No, there's no media cost, but there is in that you're sort of looking to probably seed it and sort of share it via various channels. But I think it's because there's this slight pressure off with parts of content. I think it just means it's a bit freer to probably create things that are a bit more experimental and a bit more challenging, which is good. It's good for us.
I was wondering, so what in your opinion, in you guys' opinions, what industry? So whether it's FMCG, goods, or medical care, or different things like that, what industry do you think right now puts out the best adverts? or the best type, the best creativity?
Okay, that's a good question.
That is a good question. I think it's hard to nail it to an industry,
Right.
but it's probably quite easy to nail to an attitude or a mindset. So it kind of, you tend to find even in the driest of driest, like farmer advertising, actually the people who have always stood out forever are the ones that have an attitude and stand for something, and kind of have that like rebellious nature to them, or challenge convention. And I think for me anyway, they're the ones that kind of stand out. I think you're kind of looking for, in more like retail, for example, the people that do well are the people that are making noise.
Yeah.
When the John Lewis ad came out the first time,
Yeah.
now, that was, hold up, you know what, sod telling people what we're selling, we could just tell a really amazing story and do it. Those kind of like, and that's happening in pharma, that's happening in the marine industry, that's happening in pretty much fashion, it's happening wherever. So I think it's very hard to nail it to an industry. You do get little pockets. Fashion, for one, is always, I think, probably because it's so culturally led.
Yeah.
It's so trend led. It's so new. What fashion brands are doing tends to be in regards to innovation and technology.
Yeah.
And kind of, yeah, I'd probably say the fashion brands. If I had to nail my colours. But
Yeah, it's tough. You're right. I mean, something through my mind flashed. Yeah, I was thinking like the whole kind of retail Christmas ad sort of thing, which obviously been going for a few years now. There's a definite trend there.
Yeah.
I mean, historically, sportswear used to be amazing, like Nike and Adidas. And big bad labels created amazing stuff. Technology was always great, wasn't it? Like Sony used to make brilliant TV ads. But don't really now so much, do they? I mean, you said FMCG, so I think like probably Red Bull still knock out some pretty decent events and content, sort of Stratus and people wakeboarding through cranberry fields, for, sort of lakes for some cranberry drink. And so I think Red Bull do put out some pretty good stuff. I think fashion's a great shout, but it's hard to be sector specific, isn't it? I mean, it's just who embraces something fresh and new.
And there's also that bit where you can't touch the reason why. So I'm a strong believer that you can do all the planning decks in the world and all your strategic thinking, but sometimes some things are just called for so many different cultural decisions that you can't predict it. For example, the skate scene at the minute is pretty much influencing every high street fashion retailer at the minute.
Yeah.
But I think it would have been very hard for someone 3 or 4 years to go, actually, skate is in. It's actually because probably down to the fact that chavs no longer dress like chavs.
Yeah.
They, the truth is chavs and kind of skater kids, their worlds are kind of coming closer and closer together. So the chavs are now wearing Vans, and the skater kids are now wearing Echo, and it's those worlds are kind of clashing, and that's the reason why actually skate has got this massive influence on the retail scale. So some of it is just absolutely random as to why it's happening. It's just the cultural shifts and different mindsets of different generations and stuff like that. So I think that it's probably sometimes brands find themselves in a position where they can be cool or can have an excuse to do that. And quite often that's not even their choice, I think.
Yeah.
You touched on John Lewis earlier, and it is the most wonderful time of year. We have hit December, so I think it's only just right if we touch on a little bit on about Christmas advertising.
Yeah.
What's been your favourite ad this year, Christmas-wise?
I'm biased because we've done one.
Okay. Okay. Plug it in.
Yeah.
Push it.
So we created a lovely little online story for Barber.
That was my favourite too.
Oh, nice.
But to be fair, it's been picked up and received really well, and it was. I think it was produced on 0.1% of the budget that Burberry had to make, and it's been featured in all the same articles. So I think Burberry had a £10 million production. It's amazing.
Yeah,
it's beautiful. But we've managed to carve out a lovely campaign for Barber. working alongside Penguin and the guys at Lupus Films who created the original Snowman and Snow Dog films.
Okay.
And kind of somehow managed to put together quite a charming little piece of film for them, and that, you know, it's already had 1 million+ views, and it's kind of flying. So
Brilliant.
from my perspective this year, I would say that. Otherwise, I am kind of bored of Christmas advertising.
Yeah.
It's controversial.
We'll bleep that out. It's all right.
No, it's fine. No, put it in there, because I think boredom quite often fuels my thinking.
Why are you bored of them?
I think I said the same thing. We did, our last podcast was about Christmas ads, and I think I touched on a similar thing, saying I don't think the John Doe's ad this year is as good as some of the stuff they've done.
No, I agree. It's
an expected sort of
and
thing now.
I think a lot of brands are
And
tending to lean towards cliches, and like they're not. There's the creative spark is like tending to just die away, thinking, oh yeah, but I mean it's going to get traffic anyway just because it's a Christmas ad, and so we don't need to do as much anymore.
My example isn't a great ad, but what I thought was quite good about it was that they were maybe being brave as a client, in that they're just sticking true to what their campaign is. So it's for Lidl, and it's this woman that I think the whole campaign is like someone tweets in, well, in very comments, a supposed tweet about
turkeys.
Yeah, so she's like, I wonder
good.
what Lidl, you know, whether you'd really said this tweet. I wonder what Lidl's turkeys are like. I bet they look like they're kept in a prison. So she sort of says like, well, they're not actually. Would you like to come on and spend a day on our farm? So
Barbara down to the farm.
but they're kind of that's their that's what they're doing currently.
I'll second that. I've quoted that campaign to a few people in our agency.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, the campaign is sort of, it's all right. It's nothing spectacular. There's another one with like the mussels up in the Scottish loch or something, and the kind of guy sort of sends a tweet and it's like, well, come along, join us for days. Oh, I never realised it's so fresh, and it looks very appetising and great. But I guess the point is, I think it's good that they're sticking to their campaign rather than trying to get on the bandwagon potentially of sort of doing the just all fighting with this like, let's produce an emotional tearjerker with Lily Allen sort of singing a Keen song or whatever it is. But do you know what I mean? It's like a formula. It's a real formula. And if everyone's doing the same formula, no one's really going to take notice. So they stood out for me for just A, sticking to the guns, probably as an advertising person, I can clock that, and B, just that it wasn't following the trend, following the masses.
Yeah.
If you want to hear our review of that ad, go listen to previous episodes.
Okay.
Gonna get that plug out the way.
Do you hate it?
Please do.
Insert your review here. At this point here.
Should we put forward our challenge to them? We've got a little challenge.
Oh God, we've got to do an ad or something. We've got to do a Christmas ad in 3 seconds.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh.
So, I think it's good that we've got a freelancer and someone from an agency here. I really like that balance that we've got. So it would only make sense to try and pit
I think
you
you probably know what's coming, don't you?
Out.
No?
It's to pit you two against each other in a bare knuckle fight. No, I'm just kidding. We wanted to see if you could convince each other of why you should do, the other person should go into your field.
Okay.
So Mark, if you could try and convince Luke to watch your freelance, or vice versa.
Okay, shall I start?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll speak as a freelancer. Like I said at the start, I'm moving away from being just a freelancer. I'm now sort of doing more direct stuff with clients and brands. But speaking as a freelancer, I guess I've been a creative director in an agency, and those sort of special creative opportunities, creative briefs come along maybe a couple of times a year. And sometimes if they don't quite go your way, it can be a bit frustrating. You can be like, oh my God, it's like, whereas in what I'm doing as a freelancer, you seem to get those opportunities every week, a few a week. So it's just like on to the next. It's just like you feel like your mind is purely working on creative stuff. You're not managing people. You're not managing situations, politics. None of that happens. It's just pure ideas.
Right.
I'd say on the flip of it is having people around. I think that's the kind of the sole reason why I would, because I went client side for a short space of time. The whole reason why I came back to agency, and I think the best thing you can do is work in a team of like-minded individuals. And I think when you are on your day-to-day projects, kind of long projects, you're working as a team, there's nothing more rewarding than completing something or running a successful campaign and being able to share that success, not only with our internal team, but also with the clients and maybe the suppliers if we've shot with certain photographers or production. So I think that sense of teamwork and camaraderie is probably what keeps me in agencies, as opposed to either going client side or going freelance. I guess the other point on being in an agency is that you get to concentrate on your specific job. When you're freelancing, you've kind of got to have a really good 360 understanding of business.
Right.
And that's not to say you shouldn't have that if you're in an agency, but ultimately you're not going to be worrying about your invoices if you're sat there as a designer or an art director or a copywriter. And you can kind of rely on people's specialisms. So if you've got a problem with your payroll, I've got a wonderful HR person that can just sort it out for me. Unlike a freelancer when you have to take the hits yourself, or you have to make sure you're all over your invoicing, because ultimately you're not going to get paid at the end of the day. And so it's probably it's always suited me as a person, because I have organised thoughts, but I don't have organised actions.
Okay.
And that's relying on the team around you. I think it really helps.
Yeah, it's probably quite a fair shout. Crazy people aren't massive admin sort of freaks, are they? So yeah, I would say that's one of those wrenches for me a bit, certainly. I mean, I guess if you are freelancing, you do get to work in lots of different environments. So I work at Luke's place sometimes and other agencies, and it's great to kind of go from different places to sort of work with different people. But yeah, it's for a period of time. It's not for that long term thing. So it's good to a point, I suppose. So that's a fair point from Luke, I think.
Yeah. I think I think it really will come down. I think that my only advice I'd actually give to anyone is to try both, and quite quickly I think you'll know where you feel most comfortable.
I think if you're sort of starting out from uni, I'd look to get into a good agency and work under good people, because otherwise if you are totally out on your own, it's pretty daunting, I'd say. So there's a lot to learn once you leave university, I think.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, to graduate, you have to be one hell of a superstar to be able to convince not only clients, not only your peers, not only people that you might work alongside, that you are the finished article, and you can come in and you can smash my brief. And ultimately, we use freelancers in 100 different ways, but it's a business.
Yeah.
We use creatives like Mark to come in for ideas pitches, and ultimately ideas win the pitches.
Yeah.
So there's always it's run like a business, and I just think as a graduate it'd be very difficult to convince people that you're this kind of 360 creative or kind of account side, or whichever bit of the industry you want to go into, that you're at the level you need to be to hit the ground running. And I think being a junior in a good agency, there's some bad agencies out there, and the right people can learn from bad experiences. But generally speaking, like what Mark says, go and be a junior in a really good creative agency that look after their people, and you will learn so much. You'll learn more. Your course is 3 or 4 years long. In the first 2 weeks, you'll have more real world experience than things that they cannot teach you in the classroom.
Yeah.
Like people shouting at you because you've gone £1 million over budget. It can.
Has that happened?
Close.
It's a little
But you have to, obviously from an ideas perspective, you have to be really responsible for a budget. Where you guys working on hypothetical campaigns. I know you do some live briefs and stuff, which is amazing, but hypothetical campaigns where your budgets don't actually exist.
Yeah.
So your ideas can be out of budget, it doesn't really matter. To suddenly be in an environment where you have to make sure the production of your ideas comes in on budget, and not only that, you don't compromise on how it looks or how it, the quality of it. So I don't know. There's massive pros and cons to freelancing and being in agencies, and you'll get conflicting views.
Yeah, I think as a freelancer, it's probably just balancing out the scariness versus the excitement. You know that it's totally on you, so you can't get complacent. There's no time for that.
There's no safety net, is there?
No safety net. But if you're in a good agency, complacency obviously isn't an option anyway.
Yeah.
If you're loving what you do in a good place, under good people, working for good brands, then you're great.
So what would you both say is the future for the agencies of going from 2016 onward? Where's it heading for agencies and for freelancers?
Look into your mystic ball.
This is only based on all the conversations I've been having over the last probably like 12 months or so. But for me, it's finding, and this goes in ebbs and flows, but for me, specialists against all-rounders is the topic. And at the minute, and this varies from agency to agency, but I think people are generally trying to find, from a graduate perspective, people that can come out and do more than just one thing. Ideas these days aren't someone that can write good headlines for ads. It's actually someone that can create a social media, create social media content, but not only come up with the idea, but also be the crew that actually film it, present it, write it, shoot it, put it out there, know how to run, have an understanding of digital paid media, own campaigns themselves rather than just being part of a big production line. And I think it's probably a shift towards people that can just produce content. And I think that's the bit, and already the people that are starting to thrive in our agency are the people that aren't just one thing. They're also, although their job title might be art director, they're actually as good at writing as all of our copywriters.
Right.
Or actually, they're as good in front of the client as they are sat in a dark corner smashing the work out before a pitch. And I think the industry is moving to a place where it's very hard to hide behind one skill set. And I think it's good because I think education has picked up on that. And I think over the last few years, you can tell graduates are coming out with way more of a 360 view of the world and the industry. And I think that's the way it's going to go. There's going to be so many blurred lines between what a PR agency does against what an advertising agency does against what a content agency does to an agency that builds apps. You've seen that, big financial investment companies are actually buying big advertising agencies because they've actually seen, as an investment company, wouldn't it be great if we can do our own campaigns, do our own marketing? So the world is kind of, the industry world is the kind of smashing together, and it's very hard to just be one thing anymore. I think there's still a role for specialists, and the bigger the agency, the more space there is for specialism. But if you're in a kind of a hungry, integrated world, then to be able to turn your hand to everything. As graduates from an advertising course, actually, you should be as good at advertising strategy as you are Photoshop or InDesign or After Effects. Make things move. Actually, Premiere Pro is really easy to use. Unlike all the film guys will tell you it's really difficult because they know actually it's quite easy to use. Little things like that. But, and the people that do best, or the graduates I've seen thrive the best recently, are the ones that have come out and can just do everything.
It's more fun as well, isn't it? You just hand in more things. It's just, if you've got potential skill sets and those things, it's just better to try that out. On an agency front, maybe in terms of where advertising's going, that's a big one to sort of shout. And I think new technologies are always coming along all the time. So I guess virtual reality is the thing that people are sort of thinking, is that going to be the next thing? And it probably is going to be a new big part of brands' sort of media packages and what they're spending money on. Just like a few years ago, there might be a sort of certain new social media channel that's like, okay, let's do an Instagram campaign or whatever. And I think it's great, these things come along, but I think it's just getting an understanding of them, being aware of it. But ultimately, these things all need an idea. So if you've got an understanding of what the channel is, you can do an idea that's going to work in it. So, from our point of view, I think as long as we stay abreast of what's out there and what's happening, we can look to apply concepts, creativity, ideas for brands to whatever comes out.
Do you guys feel that being on an advertising course, that just the title of that actually encapsulates the industry that you're going into?
He's asking us the question. That's not how it goes. I'm just kidding.
I think it's changed quite a bit recently. and a lot of the stuff that we learn is coupled together with different courses as well. So we learn about the creative side, we learn about the strategy side, we learn about PR, we learn about marketing, we learn about media and design and different things like that. And I think they're starting to encapsulate all these different elements, and they're trying to give us an idea. Obviously, it's nothing compared to the real thing, and it never will be. But I think we are getting a better understanding of it. And of course, talking to guys like you just helps that even more. And going to Metro and going to all these things really gives us an idea of what it's actually about.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting.
Yeah.
Because I with one hat you could say, everything's advertising, regardless of whether it's social media.
Yeah.
So it kind of it's a valid term, but it's almost quite a dated term in regards to you don't if you look at all the agency websites at the minute, if you went through Campaign's top 50 agencies, I don't think there'd be many that say they're an advertising agency anymore. They'll be integrated agencies.
They'll do a bit of everything, don't they?
Communications agency or brand communications agencies or an agency for tomorrow or But it's a.
I guess in some ways these things it needs a collective term. So in some ways, things a while back was sort of split between sort of being above the line, below the line, digital. It's like again that's all part of the mix of advertising, marketing. So advertising kind of still covers content, doesn't it?
It does. It's just that cultural relevancy bit. Is it an old hat phrase? Yeah. To say actually what we do now, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is it integrated communications or is it? I don't know what the answer is. But
because it edges onto PR, it edges onto content creation.
But I think as the industry goes that way, kind of going back to the original question, it'll be interesting to see how much foresight the educational institutes actually have on that. Because even that example there, that I'm pretty sure no agencies call themselves advertising agencies anymore. But yet you still have advertising courses in every single uni up and down the country.
But I think that's what was a good thing about this course, because I think from year one we sort of have a basic understanding of the whole communications mix, don't we?
Yeah.
I mean, in first year we learned not just about advertising. We learned the fundamentals of advertising, but we learned
loads of different things.
Yeah.
We learned about marketing. We learned about PR.
Yeah, we learned. And I think that sort of continues.
I think first year was a lot about giving us a base structure as to all the different things that you could go into, and then second year was quite creative focus with
slightly
a little bit of branding.
More tailored towards advertising.
Yeah, slightly tailored. And this year they're really giving us the opportunity to pick and choose whether we want to go into digital, whether we want to go into consumer research, behavioral economics, creative design, copywriting. So I think they do give you the choice. Obviously, we can't do everything, which would be good, but it's just not possible.
Yeah, but can you imagine the workload?
Exactly. It's already bad enough. Yeah. Plus a dissertation on top of that.
So I know, again, breaching the sort of protocol of these podcasts. One more quick question. So your course, what's the breakdown of where graduates end up going to in terms of, say, copywriter, account manager, planner, creative? What's the sort of
I think
split?
very few go into creative.
Okay, yeah.
Very few. Most go junior account managers and strategy side first.
Okay. But I think it was made clear, well, not to me, because I don't know, but it was made clear when we started that this was more of a strategic and management-based side of advertising and not a creative side. But again, what I've learned on placement, what I've learned over the past year is it really doesn't really matter. Like I worked with a copywriter who had an engineering degree from Oxford. You can teach yourself all these. You can teach yourself Photoshop. I'm not very good at Photoshop or InDesign, but I'm getting there. I'm learning it. I'm teaching myself.
Yeah.
So
sure. I think you can come down here, and you can learn a little bit of strategy and about management, and I think that's important because, we touched on it's not just separate departments in an agency anymore. You're all sitting around together, and you're all part of one. You're one cog of a bigger machine, and I think to understand that, that will make everyone's job better. And I think that's what.
I think at the end of the day, it's hard to teach creativity, and you can't because people. Especially the education system, where they want everything that you do to be able to be quantified and analyzed and given a mark on. Especially here, so
you're molded.
You can come up with a great idea, but if your lecturer doesn't like it, there's a good chance you're not going to get a good mark. And someone like you or someone else in the industry might think it's a great idea, and you never know. So I think sometimes we get shut down, but like, I guess it's all a learning experience, so it helps. I think we have been trained to get shut down pretty well.
So I suppose you get shut up, but I guess then you get trained to argue your corner and fight your corner and make a case for trying to wriggle out of it. And
I guess that's one thing. I think that's one thing I've sort of struggled to get my head around. Well, not struggled, but I'm starting to realise is it's not always like a one meeting thing. You know, you can come up with your idea, but that's not always a finished idea. And I'm probably stating the obvious here, but you go through a process of you state the idea, you get feedback, you make it better, and you just keep on going to that until you finally reach a point where you're both, happy.
Big time. And actually, on that point, it's known when to stop sometimes.
Yeah.
Was that a hint?
No. Kotai's book. No, not at all. It's it's known when to stop the creative process because actually you can overthink as well. So how do you know when to stop that?
Just
through experience, and you, like what Mark was saying earlier, you build on positive experiences or positive case studies, and you go, actually, when we did this process for this pitch, it worked really well because we didn't have too many. You can have too many people involved in a process, for example, especially when it comes to ideas. It can actually become really hard to manage, and the clarity of the strategic thinking can disappear because actually you might have too many people in the room that don't quite understand the strategy. So massively, I think when you know an idea is there, generally there's kind of little habits and little tricks that you kind of do. But we kind of say if you can get it without, if we're talking about a bit of print or a bit of kind of content or film or whatever, if you can get it without having to explain it to anyone, then you've got an idea that's in a good space. Likewise, the flip of it is that if you can explain your idea in a very short space of time, so a sentence or two, and no matter who you're talking to, your nan, she gets it.
Yeah.
You're in a good place. So I think there are kind of little tricks and habits you can learn.
Show it around to a few people.
It's the post-it note test, isn't it? If you can get your idea down on a post-it note.
It is that. Sometimes ideas have to be more complicated than that because the challenges are more complicated than that. Or there might be you might have a central thought. Quite often, and this is what when they talk about integrated ideas, you will have your central thought or campaign proposition or idea, then actually that idea gets spread across 100 different touch points underneath it in different ways. But it's a creative articulation of your campaign proposition. So sometimes the campaign proposition might be really easy to sell in, but a difficult channel is always going to be difficult. So you might not be able to do it. But in regards to the big idea or the thing that you can sell in as an idea, or an idea that will win a pitch, or an idea that ultimately will have a positive effect on the brand and consumer relationship, I think you've got to be able to articulate it really easily and quickly.
Has there ever been any idea that you've had for a brief that you've been working on and you've pitched it to the client and they've just straight away said, yeah, we'll do it? And what does that feel like for them to just your first point of contact with them with your idea and they just...
I don't know whether you'd agree with this, Mark. It's very rare that any agency or freelancer would ever go in with one thought. You tend to respond, well, we do anyway, from this is in your comfort zone, this is slightly out your comfort zone, this is way out your comfort zone.
Okay.
So it's kind of normally those kind of way out your comfort zone ideas are kind of you feel confident to be able to sell them in because you've got 2 or 3 or 4 ideas in the bag that they can do. But sometimes they do come off, and it's because you get a client on a good day, or you get a client that's their side performing really well, so they've been given a bit of extra budget that they can spend on something that's different,
right?
Or a kind of sometimes, and this is where the agency world gets a bit competitive, but sometimes clients will bring on another agency and execute a brave idea. So they send a rocket up the other agency's arse saying, look, we can go out and get creative ideas elsewhere. So it's a bit of a complicated mix, I think.
It can be, yeah. But I think your overall approach, I think, like you say, you don't really go in with one. It's probably a risky strategy. I think you can go with naturally the process of having ideas, you have lots. It's
Yeah.
subjective, so there's lots of things that can fit and can be right. You probably spend some time with those things to whittle it down to a short list. Go in with your short list, and then I think in your mind, if you're asked, I think you need to have your recommendation, because you need to not look like you're being
And some-
wishy-washy.
yeah,
you can't look like you're
Sometimes,
being
depending
incisive.
on the right job, the power of one idea can be a very confident approach for the agency to take.
Certainly.
This is your idea, and this is right because of this.
But I think you can cleverly do that in the context of presenting for 3 or 4 ideas. You can sort of show that, and you can always gauge it, and then sort of say, here's a recommendation based on perhaps how the chemistry's gone via that meeting. It depends how well you know the person. How well you know the person. But yeah, it's probably a sensible approach. To sort of give yourself options.
Should we move on to our bankers now?
Right, yeah, we've had a blast talking to you guys and getting to understand a little bit more about everything here. We do have 2 bankers, which we ask every guest that comes on. 3 bankers, but in the constraints of time, they might.
I'm trying to be quiet and sly, and you're just sitting. Oh no, 3. Okay, go ahead.
I said 2. And
Go ahead. Just go ahead. We're not going to have a fight now. Just go.
There's 3, but there might not be enough time for all 3.
Okay.
Leave it at that.
Yeah.
So number 1 is, can you each give us your elevator pitch? So you've got 10 seconds. It will be timed. I'm taking my watch off now.
Yep.
And sell it. Why would someone hire you? Sell yourself in 10 seconds. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
Brave, I
Thank
like
you.
that.
Give me 10 seconds to think.
Right, okay. You ready?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Go.
I'm confident that I would have as good or a better idea than most people I know.
Time. That was good.
That was good.
You had 4
Strong.
seconds left over.
That was good.
I like that.
We had one person that wasted 7 of his seconds and started to talk and didn't finish. Mark?
No pressure.
Wow.
Okay.
That's really tough.
Right.
Are you ready?
Ready? Go.
So as I said at the start, our philosophy is buzz from unconventional ideas. That is our philosophy, and that's what we do when we can prove it.
Time. That was
Both pretty
good.
good.
That was very good.
I was going to go on to say, well, we could prove it. It might have got cut off.
Okay, so the second banker is, can you describe your career in 3 words? We'll let Mark go first on this one. Did you went first on the last one?
Yeah, lots of fun.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
I don't want to say any words because you might take them as my 3 words because of Mark's clever.
Oh no, you've got over it now.
No, I would say challenging, life-changing. That's 1 word because I've
Hyphenated. Okay. Bending the rules a bit.
And enjoyable.
Nice.
Fair.
Great.
She asked them the one question that I found quite weird, but I did come up with it.
Go for it. This is our level.
Okay, so
We've put it at this level, and I'm so glad you're about to take it to the other level.
They do have a taxi coming soon. So
Huh?
Did you have a taxi coming soon?
No, we
Something
don't.
like that.
We have no taxis.
right. So
Wait, do you not?
No, we got some food booked at the time.
fair
Okay.
enough.
Alright, I thought there was a taxi
But
coming.
it's
That's why I was
booked for 7:15 though.
Ah.
So I could.
are you guys going to Metro after?
Yeah.
like,
Okay.
pre-fueling.
Yeah.
Refueling.
Go on,
Right.
ask your question.
So the question is, and I really wanted to know what people in the industry would say. So if you were to describe advertising or creativity, you can pick either one, to an alien, technically, a person who had no idea what it was.
My nan.
How exactly?
What advertising was.
My auntie.
Yeah, just explain the concept of advertising.
Do you know, it's a good
what
question.
is advertising?
It's a good question because my family still to this day have no idea what I do. And I can't even be bothered to explain it. So it's a good question. You're about to force me.
This could be your shorthand.
Yeah, this is it.
Can't be
I
having
guess we've got to get
Christmas.
used to that. Like, my auntie still doesn't know what I do. She just thinks I work with computers. Which to an extent is true. I do, but, you know.
I think I think you have to split the world into 2 camps. You have commercial,
Yeah.
and you have non-commercial. And I think in a commercial sense, the role of creativity or advertising is to create a positive reaction in between a brand and a consumer to ultimately gain sales.
Okay.
That's a bit of a formulaic kind of answer because the non-commercial side would be way more interesting because you actually your whole job is to make someone think.
Yeah.
and nothing
Mhm.
Yeah.
more than that.
Okay.
To give someone a different perspective or a different way of looking at something.
Yeah, I suppose it's to get people to do what you want, or to make people have a reaction that is in line with what you want to achieve.
I'd probably say to Mr. Alien, I'd say, Mr. Alien, are there other aliens? And
Yeah.
then, are there other aliens?
There can be.
Okay, they're okay.
Yeah,
In
Bob,
the alien we're
Bob and
speaking-
his mates. Yeah, all of
Bob
them,
and
yeah.
his mates, the aliens. I'd say, how do you get your other aliens to do stuff?
Right. Yeah.
So, I think the only reason advertising, marketing, or creative industry exists is because ultimately we're a world packed full of humans with emotional connections to each other, and you have persuasive people, and you have people that are very good at doing, and you have people that are very analytical, and you have all these different types of people, and ultimately we've created a society where we can all slot ourselves in it and make money, and kind of coexist. And Bob, I'd say to Bob the Alien, if you feel like you're a good communicator and you feel like you can convince your other alien friends to do stuff, and they don't quite know why they're doing it, then he should probably go into advertising or creative.
And I'm sort of picturing Bob the Alien with all these aliens on the ship behind him.
Yeah.
They're all in there. It's like, as you were sort of saying, like, Bob, how did he get all those aliens in there? What if there were 3 other ships and other people sort of saying, come over here? It's like, you've got to find a way of getting them to come to your ship.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's kind of
Exactly. So
convincing,
I think
making convincing arguments.
it's human
making people
interaction and communication, ultimately.
moving
And
aliens.
some people are better at it than others. And just the fact that you guys are on an advertising course is probably a good indication that you would be able to also tell Bob the Alien what creative advertising marketing is.
We'd hope so.
Well, we will save that for another time.
I literally never thought that question would get that kind of an answer.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, this has been probably one of the most interesting chats we've had so far.
Enlightening.
So thank you.
Tell
so
tell
much.
George Beverly
for
that.
Yeah. Hopefully he listens and you hear it.
Mike, can you hear that?
Before we go, are there any things that you'd like to plug and just get out of the way?
Not really. I think throughout the course of what we chatted about personally, I think it's good, and I really enjoyed it. Thanks for asking us along.
No, I guess the only thing I would plug is you two.
Yeah.
For getting
stop it.
nice.
for getting off your asses and doing something.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Charmer.
As opposed to you waiting for opportunities to come to you, you're going out there and making opportunities happen. So fair play.
We just fist bumped.
You don't tell him. That makes it less cool.
No, well, there's an awkward silence, so I had to say something.
Yeah.
All right, end it. Let's go.
Cool.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you so much for coming on. Enjoy your Thai food, and we'll see you guys next week.
Next week.
Next
Hopefully.
week.
Yes.
I should say that with more confidence. We'll see you next week. Over and out.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.